another interview presented by Alabama Wrestling Forums. I'm Jackson Bassett here with newly named head Hoover wrestling coach, Coach Jack Lamey Sr. How you doing today, Coach?
Doing good, man.
So let me start out by asking you, what got you into wrestling?
Well, honestly, I loved, professional wrestling when I was young, and that kind of, piqued my interest because I heard wrestling in school. It was like, hey, let's do this, because I knew that, some people like to cross over, whatever. But, one day in the hallway, I'm there, and Gene Taylor, who won 9 state championships at Weaver, came up and he said, "Hey, we're having a meeting Wednesday. I want you to come." I was like, okay. So I go down there, and he starts talking about winning championships, and he said, "What we got in this room, I think we can win a state championship with." And I was like, "Hey, I like winning." And so he said, and the thing that really got me, it's kind of embarrassing to admit, but he said, if you want to run, you'll join the track team. He said, "We're not running. We don't run from anybody." Being a big guy, I was like, this is my guy. We don't have to run. I had no idea what he had in store for us to get us in shape. Probably would have rather have run than do what we were doing. But that was it. Got in, and just kind of fell in love with it.
So what were some of Coach Taylor's keys to success to winning 9 titles in the rest of your high school career?
Well, he was, and a lot of people question his technique and so forth, but it didn't matter, because he made every single one of us feel like that we were the most important kid to him. Like he loved us, he pushed us hard. I mean, there's not a kid that would not fight anybody on his behalf. I mean, it was just, he knew what to say to you, what buttons to push. I mean, and it's just a big family. That's the way he made it feel. And so, we didn't know that we weren't, on the level with some of the other teams. We just went out there and just went to fight. I mean, that's what we did. And then you get, there's guys all over the state now that wrestled for him, and now we're coaches and having success. And a story that I always tell about him, the year that we won state at Piedmont, Jake Taylor also won state as an individual. I've known Jake since he was a little bitty thing. And so a few days later, I get a card in the mail and open it up, and it was from Coach Taylor, and he's like, "How about that? My boys Jake and Harley win the state championship on the same day." That's his son. I just wrestled for him, but he saw me the same way. I mean, it meant a lot, and that's the kind of man he was. That's how he was able to have success. It wasn't what he knew. It's what he, how he made us feel, and how he made us want to do our very best for him.
So kind of run us through your high school career.
Well, I honestly I wrestled my junior and senior year. They split the state tournament then. My junior year, I came out, I was raw. The only thing I really knew how to do, and you had other moves, but I know you were kind of fond of the headlock. That was kind of my, that was my go-to. I wasn't as successful as you are with it, but ended up, I placed 3rd my junior year. Go to my senior year, didn't put in the work I should have. That's how I can tell guys now what it takes, because I saw it. I paid the price for not putting in the time. Lost a tough one right off the bat in the state tournament, and then came back and ended up losing to a guy that just a nemesis I had. I always tell people that wrestle. I was a big heavyweight. I did not like wrestling the smaller heavyweights. Those guys are hard to get your hands on. Those are the ones I struggled with. But we ended up winning the team title that year, and then I came back afterwards, like a lot of guys do, and helped out in the room. Just came back and wrestled with the guys, and helped Coach Taylor run tournaments and so forth. And that kind of got me thinking, hey, I might want to do this one day. And so it just kind went from there. So even, just the limited number of years I had wrestling, I don't know if it made me appreciate it more. Like there was no chance for me to burn out on it. I like caught it and then it just took off. Some people that do it their whole life, they kind of, I won't say burn out, but they, sometimes need a break from it.
So what brought you back to helping?
It was Gene Taylor. I mean, the way he coached us, I didn't know anything else but to come back and help him out. And then there were, I had buddies on the team, like me and Frank Hartzog were close. There were other guys that I just liked being around those guys. And so, I was a little younger when I graduated, so they were closer to my age. And so I just wanted to go back and help, be a part of it. It was special, and I wanted to be a part of it.
So obviously, post college, you went and coached at Sax for a year. What was your first year in coaching like?
Well, it's one of those. I was at the time I thought I was ready to be a head coach. I was very wrong. I was not ready to be a head coach. Anybody that goes straight in to being a head coach out of college that's not a good situation. I did a lot of things that were, looking back now, I'm thinking, why would you do that? Why would you? There's so many different ways to handle the situations that I did wrong. And looking back, you're like, God, how dumb are you? But it's just not having any experience. And so, I did learn a lot through that. It was kind of like the, trial by fire, a sink or swim kind of thing. And so I learned a lot of lessons that I still kind of use today. Then I met a lot of people that were older, were more established, that kind of helped me out. But I don't recommend being a head coach right out of college. Your first job should not be a head coach.
So what led you to Piedmont? I know I talked to Coach Glenn, and he told me, he's like, the only people who live out here are the people who work at that one factory,
Yeah.
and the people who teach in high school.
Yeah.
So it's kind of the middle of nowhere too.
Yeah, it's there's a lot of truth in that statement. So I went to JSU and got assigned to Piedmont for my student teaching. So I went up there, and they were starting their wrestling program. And so I was doing getting my health degree. So I was with the health teacher who was also the wrestling coach, Rocky Franz, and the assistant him was Mike Bobbitt. And that was the first year they had the program. And then Superintendent Mike Hayes was also involved. He kind of helped start it. And so go up there and I help out the first year, kind of get another taste of coaching. This was before I graduated, so this is pre-Sax. So I get to go in there and help, roll around with the guys a little bit. And so you go a year at Sax, where I did away with the position, and I had a year where I cut grass because you got to take care of your family. And then Coach Bobbitt gets moved up to be the head football coach, athletic director. So he calls me and was like, hey, would you like to be the head wrestling coach? And I go from cutting grass, which is, it's not really that fun. It's kind of hard work. Not that coaching isn't, but it's a different kind of work. To get the call, I remember I lived in Weaver at the time, and I got that call, and I started dancing down the hallway. I was so excited. I was like, man, I'm supposed to be the head coach. I had a little experience, so it was a little different situation. But I was so thankful that he thought to give me that opportunity to come up and be the head coach. And so that's where it started, at Piedmont.
What are some of your keys to success? Then obviously, down the line, you guys won a state championship in 2008, 2009, and you've had numerous, fantastic wrestlers like Clay Dent, and a lot of those other guys who were part of the team. I remember there's a YouTube video online that's Piedmont Wrestling. Really cool. You guys ever have some free time? I've done it. I go to all through YouTube, look Alabama Wrestling. Piedmont Wrestling does this really cool thing. It was the road to state. You guys should watch it. But what was some of your time at Piedmont like?
Well, it was, the thing with us being successful there was we had really good kids that were bought into what we were doing. And then, of course, I had Britt Shaw, who's now building a good, I'm going to say, a powerhouse at Gulf Shores. He was with me for several years and was a part of that success. I mean, it was, we did everything together. And I always wanted to bring him with me. Like, he was like my number 2 guy, but he's obviously a true number 1 guy. He's doing great things. But the kids were, they worked year round. I had a solid group that would go, some that would go train in Georgia, some that came to AWC, and they just worked year round. If there was a tournament, it didn't matter where it was, they would go. We had dads that would be like, hey, I'm taking these guys to go wrestle over here. All right. And, that's things a lot of people, I mean, you've seen it, but a lot of people don't understand that success that you have during that short wrestling season doesn't happen because of what you did during that season. It's what you did the other, 8 months out of the year to get ready for that. So we had guys that did that, and that's where, that run of success came from.
What was winning that team title like?
It was a pretty special thing. I had a group of seniors, that I'd had since I think they were in 5th grade when they started. Had some that went away and came back and contributed. Had some young guys that stepped up and did some things. I mean, it was a really special moment. And then I have a picture, and Coach Savarese, who just recently retired at the AHSAA, and it's a pretty neat moment. We're all out there, getting ready for the awards. And that was the year they did all the matches on one mat. Had the lights out, had one mat, so they did 1A through 4A match, 5A match, then 6A match. So you imagine, I mean, when we locked it up, we still had, I don't know, probably 2 hours before we get the trophy. So we're all kind of in high anticipation. But after it's over with, teams gather up. You do all the awards, and then you get the team championships. Well, he comes over and he grabs Jack. He's like, "Come here." And Jack used to dress up like me at state, and he comes over and gets him. And I've got a picture of Jack carrying that championship trophy to hand it to the team. And I thought that's a moment that it just doesn't happen. I mean, for Coach Saab to do that, it was showed what kind of man he is to take that and make that much more special.
I actually have seen that picture on. There's one of you guys in Piedmont actually. If you guys, I don't know if it was side by side with the. I was going to ask you, why'd you choose the white suit?
Well, we went that year with white final singlets. That was in 2007, I think, is the first year that we wore those. And so I was like, I'll wear white too. And that was when it was at the Pelham Civic Complex. So I remember walking in, and it was like paparazzi. I mean, people were coming up taking pictures. I mean, it was like, I didn't know it was going to be that, and still today, like every year, hey, where's that white tux? And so I've told him that if Jack makes it to the finals his senior year, it may come back. So we'll see.
So would you guys do like a white final singlet for Hoover then?
I think we're going to stick with black.
The Pat did skull and crossbones.
Yeah.
But so obviously after there you made your transition to Vestavia, and you coached under Coach Adams.
Yeah, we had tried to get it the year before. I had talked to him about coming over in 2016, but there wasn't a teaching spot. So we waited another year, come over, and they had a spot at Liberty Park. So I kind of did dual roles. I was the head coach at Liberty Park, and then when we didn't have anything, I would go with the varsity. So like during the summer, I was with the varsity. Big tournaments we go out of town, they were really, really great about letting me kind of set my schedule so that I wouldn't miss jack wrestling. They, big time family in Vestavia, so they would always let me, and then even times where they would have somebody cover, if I couldn't be there. Then I had, and this was the crazy part, at Liberty Park, I had Terry Tingle, who was my assistant, who is a varsity head coach. He coached at Oak Grove, and Mortimer Jordan had, I tried to count it, he would never do it, but I think he coached 27 individual state champions. So this guy is the real deal. So we came walking into I think we went to Oxford or somewhere. Anyway, we were at a tournament. We came walking in, and the guy, one of the coaches, kind of looked and he was like, what are y'all doing? Coaching Liberty Park. He was like, you got an all-star coaching staff for middle school? I was like, well, we're in Vestavia. So, but it was kind of a shock for some people to see us, both, being at Piedmont for so long, and him being that time with Mortimer Jordan, he came over here and he coached in Vestavia, and so for us to be together, it was good. We ended up coaching, had 2 Metro champs, which there hadn't been any in school history, and there's some kids now that are varsity starters that wrestle for us at Liberty Park. So we had a good time. Did some good things.
You guys trying to show up I can't think of his last name, the coach who just retired over at Piedmont.
Coach Pruitt.
Yeah.
You can't show up Coach Pruitt. Coach Pruitt, look, I think it was 2 years ago. He had a bunch of first-year kids. Thought he was going to have just a team that he really didn't know what was going to happen. Comes out and wins the Metro. I mean, it was like, these kids have never wrestled before, and they just come out and win Metro. So, Coach Pruitt did an awesome job, and my time at Vestavia, I got to work with, Malcolm Pruitt. I got to work with Jeff Seegers, which, he became like a mentor to me. Just an amazing guy. Learned so much from him. You get to work with T. Adams. That dude is, next level. Chad Merrill, Cody Merrill. Nathan Miles, who's head coach at Moody, came back home to Vestavia. There's all these guys that, I'm like a sponge. People sit around and talk, and I'll just sit there and listen and pick up stuff. I got to work with Buddy Anderson, and there were times, I would just go sit and listen to him, and the stuff he was talking about wasn't really about football. It was just about life, and that, I'm just soaking it in, because these guys, a lot of people don't understand that these old guys, say old guys, but that older generation has so much wisdom that we could learn from, and any opportunity I could, I would learn. Because like my high school coach, Gene Taylor, is no longer with us. He passed away, and I'd give anything just to be able to sit and listen to him talk. And these other guys, they kind of give me something I can't get from my coach, and to hear the wisdom that they have, it's special to me. It means something to me.
So, I did an in-depth on Vestavia's coaching staff, and it's just insane to see what Vestavia has. What kind of draws people to Vestavia?
I think it's the tradition of Vestavia. I'll be honest. The first time that I saw my son wearing the robe, because a lot of people, will mock the robe and say it's silly, but I know, like, I'm kind of a fan of wrestling. Probably similar to you. I just love Alabama wrestling, and so I knew the significance of the robes. I'd seen them when I was in high school, and I knew like what it took to get that. Like, you can't just wear a robe. Like, you have to be a varsity starter at Vestavia. So you have to, first of all, be in that school. Then you have to beat everybody else in your spot to get there, and then to wear it. It was a big deal, and the first time he wore it, I got a little misty-eyed. I'll admit, and it was special. And then I think that's a kind of the draw for other people. You know, most state championships in Alabama history. You know, you go in the room and you see all the team championship pictures and all the individual pictures. You know, and then for me, it was getting to work with you know, Jeff Seegers, Chad Merrill, and T. Adams. I mean, me and Coach Adams coached against each other in Calhoun County. Had some really good wars. He was at a big school. I was at a small school, so they shouldn't have been close, but they were. I'm not saying why, but you know, we were. I say that we were looking forward to the opportunity to be able to work together, and I think the same way with the new coaches, with Coach Hawk and Coach Tucker. You know, they wanted to be in that program, be a part of that, be a part of something special.
So, you know, why did you decide to come to Hoover?
Well, Hoover's always been a career goal for me. It was something that, you know, a few years ago I was talking with Coach Gadosh about coming over. About the same time I was talking about coming to Vestavia. I think Vestavia just made the phone call first, and I accepted the job there. But I mean, we were in talks for me to come here. It was somewhere I always wanted to be. This was, you know, but I kind of thought, you know, I'm in Vestavia, I got a good job, you know, I could see myself retiring there. And then it came open, and, you know, Coach Hicks, who's here, you know, who has won multiple championships, you know, won at St. Clair County, won a few at Leeds, won some at Oxford. I mean, it's like everywhere the guy goes, whatever he touches turns to gold. He's King Midas. But, you know, he was always like, hey, you coming over? You coming over? And I'm like, man, no, I ain't. I'm good. I'm good where I'm at. And as it kept progressing, it was like, you know, God kept opening these doors, and I'm like, I don't know if I want to go. Like, I just kind of had put that on the back burner, say, well, I always wanted to coach at Hoover, but maybe that's something I won't be able to do. And just stuff started happening, doors started opening, and, you know, my son loves to play football, and so for him to get the opportunity now to play for Josh Niblett it's a big deal. And it doesn't hurt that Chad Merrill came over as the defensive coordinator here. He's a good friend of mine, and you know, has played a role in Jack's life, and, you know, it's just everything just fell into place for me to come here. And you know, it's still kind of like we'll be riding down the road, and I'll just kind of look over at my wife and go, you know, I'm the head coach at Hoover, right? I mean, it's still cool. You know, this is a big deal. So I'm you know, humbled by the opportunity. Coach Urban has gone out of his way to make the transition smooth, and I'm so happy to be a Buck.
So, what do you bring to the table as the head coach?
I think I try to be, you know, kind of like my coach was. You know, the technique will be there. I mean, we've got guys here that know technique. I know technique. I became a student of the game. You know, not having a lot of experience, I did a lot of study. I still watch film, watch videos, learn stuff. I'm always sending stuff to Jack. I know he gets tired of it. He's like, hey, check this out. And so, I mean, I'm constantly trying to learn. But I think where I kind of try to find, you know, each guy and just, I would say, love on. You know, just getting there and you know, I'm not one for just letting people run wild. We have structure, but within that we have a good time. You know, this is a hard sport, and if you make it where it's hard all the time and you're constantly yelling at them, they don't want to do it anymore. And so I want wrestling to be fun. I want them to love it so much that they bring their kids back to wrestling. And getting kind of old now, where some of my wrestlers at Piedmont are like, hey, my kid's wrestling now. I'm like, I'm old. So I want it to be something that's special to them. And I think that's where, you know, me and Coach Hicks and even Coach Merrill, I think we all are kind of the same way. We've been around a while to know that this is a grind, and it can't be all the time just pounding the guys. It's got to be something that they love to do, something they look forward to coming to, and I think that's where we're going to be able to reach some of these guys and hopefully be able to compete.
Does Hoover plan on having a women's wrestling team here?
Yes, that's something that me and Coach Higgs have been talking a lot about. We're the largest school in the state. We hosted the girls' state tournament here. There's no reason why we can't, have a girls' program. Not just a few girls on our team, but have an actual girls' program where, they hopefully as it continues to grow in Alabama, that we can have, girls going to wrestle in dual meets against other girl teams. I mean, that's where we need to get to. And I don't know if you know this, you probably weren't able to find it, but my second year at Piedmont, I had 10 girls on the wrestling team. That was way back then. So we had, I think, ended up at the end of the year, we had 3 that made it all the way through. And one eventually became like my manager. But to think back that far to have girls, and I remember some of the coaches saying, "You have girls that's they're gonna do away with it because they don't want the girls wrestling the boys." And I was like, "We can wrestle girls. I mean, we can make this work." I didn't know it was going to take this long for it to get there, but we got some amazing young ladies in the state that are fun to watch, and I don't see any other way for wrestling to go in Alabama except to get girls where they have their own, not just their own state tournament, but their own schedule, and their own, get to the point where they have their own duals title. I mean, there's no reason that we can't make that happen.
What's it like coaching your son?
It's kind of like a double-edged sword, because I know for me, it's hard for me to turn off Coach. Like when we get in the car, I know I continue to coach. And it should be, okay, we're leaving the building, now it's Dad. And that's something where I've tried to, I wouldn't say I'm fully there yet, but I'm trying to get there. Me having the personality I do, it's like go, go, go. We're constantly learning, and he may be a little different. He likes to just, he can kind of compartmentalize what he's doing. Like it's football, it's all about football. If it's wrestling, he can go all about wrestling. If it's time off from those, then it's time off. There's no, he don't want me sending him videos. He wants to hang out or whatever. And so it's really, it's kind of it's a blessing, and then it also, there's difficulty. And you just kind of have to, those dads out there who coach their kids, they know what it's like. Go from the winning a state title, and rejoicing in that, and then having to be there when he loses a heartbreaker in the finals, and it's difficult, but I wouldn't have it any other way.
So is there anybody specifically that you look forward to working with now that you're at Hoover?
Well, a lot of these kids I coached against in middle school, and now to see them up here and get to be around them and get to know them, it's pretty exciting. We've got, and I'm not going to brag on all of them. I don't want to leave somebody out, but we have a really good chance to be competitive this year. Looking up and down the lineup, and some kids that are coming out that coming over from football. We have a chance if we can get all the pieces to fall into place. We could have a lot of fun this year.
Well, Coach, before I let you go, is there anything you want to say to my viewers?
I think you got to click the like button. Make sure you subscribe, share it, put it on your social media. this man does a good job promoting wrestling, and I think everybody should help him. We can make this something big, and maybe we can uphold our end so that you can see a lot of Hoover wrestling on Alabama Wrestling Forums.
Well, I really do appreciate that, Coach. And like Coach said, don't forget to like and subscribe, and stay cool on your wrestling. That's really good.